on Sunday. For the state of the sea today is going to be calm, but tomorrow to Sunday we expect it to be rough. And we don't expect massive rain and thunderclouds over the sea. Pressures are a little bit high. The winds are a bit calm too. So we are expecting no much sleep. So they can do fishing activities, but they have to be a bit careful. The water lake is also cool morning to the afternoon. And then later in the evening where we are expecting the thunderstorms formation. So they also have to be their own observers when the clouds are gathering and they are becoming darker in color. The wind speeds are picking, then they have to pack off and go. After the rain, they can come back to continue their activities.
Right. And so a weekend will be like a this, like a that, as they say somewhere.
Yes. For those of us along the coast, we are pretty cool for our outing and every other thing.
Felicity, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Do you have weekend plans? Or we should come and take you out?
Yes. I have some little travel to do to Damango and book. Yeah.
Bring some yam if you can.
I will do so.
21 minutes after 6 here on 3FM 92.7. This is your Urban Lifestyle Radio. It's the Sunrise Morning Show. Just gone by is the weather update from the Ghana Meteorological Agency. Felicity Hafeanyo is the woman responsible for it. Daily Graphic this morning says stolen identity. That's the screaming headline. Many at risk from SIM card re-registration. Eslausu money. Asantehene meets King Charles III, and King Charles, they said yesterday, welcomed the Asantehene Otumfuose to the second and his wife Lady Julia to the Buckingham Palace ahead of the King's coronation tomorrow. Navrongo Central economic potential blighted by poor roads and galamsey. Apostle Nyamiche chairs Church of Pentecost again and be responsible. Stop deforestation, save the environment. That's a campaign on the front page of the Daily Graphic. The Ghanaian Observer says Truth Stance observing Ghana in Truth founded in 2006. Government to deploy special task force for Boku. NPA cautions motorists filling fuel tanks to the brim is dangerous. Primpark charges government to save media from dying, and MPP presidential race over 100 MPs route for Baumia. Kokofu hails Chief Imam over support for Vice President Baumia. And on the front page of the Finder newspaper, 4 technical universities receive hospitality training equipment worth 900,000 Ghana cedis. Filling vehicle fuel tanks to the brim is dangerous, according to the National Petroleum Authority. ECG dig up over 300K illegal connections during 1 month revenue mobilization exercise. MD Samuel Dubik Mahama is a lawyer there. We will host ECG later in the show. And South Dai NDC primaries, Tapia Makpo Ofosu in a tight race. Helen?
All right, well, I've got the ABC newspaper in front of me. The front page has this to say: taxi ride hailing app coming. And that's coming from Vice President Dr. Baumia, also pictured here on the front page. NDC man attacks radio host in Tamale. And Ekufuado commissions Kia vehicle assembly plants at Amasaman.
Ghanaian Times this morning, the most authoritative newspaper in Ghana. That's according to the Ghanaian Times. Boko violence, government said to deploy special task force as national security and security heads tour hot spots. Anti-gay coalition backs 7 MPs to sail through primaries, and ECG recovers 3.1 billion yet to locate customers owing 1.53 billion. It has a picture of Mr. Samuel Mahama, MD of ECG. Former NDC communications officer allegedly assaulted radio presenter. That's on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. On the back page, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture presents equipment worth 900 million Ghana cedis to 4 technical universities and 48 MMDAs to benefit from projects.
Okay, let's go to page 8 of the Finder newspaper. Where filling tanks to the brim is dangerous according to the NPA. And when you go to the filling stations these days, you see, not just these days, it's been there. Oh, sorry, William. Well, so you see trotro drivers and taxi drivers and sometimes even private vehicles. They fill the tank and then they come and stand and shake the vehicle. Say, you are not the NPA says it is a dangerous thing.
Are
to do.
people still able to fill their tanks these days?
Well, there are few people who are able to do that.
So for the few of you who are able to fill your tanks these days,
And-
please, not to the brim.
No, not to the brim.
Yeah.
We beg you. For those of us who have been buying tots, we are calming down.
Tots.
So you two be calming down.
Charlie, the whole week, tots, and go on Monday, tots, Tuesday, tots, Wednesday.
Totting.
Oh, Charlie.
Yesterday, sometimes when you're used to buying a certain quantum of fuel and you get to the filling station, you buy a certain quantum, that the attendant looks at you like, boss, is it you or...
Somebody recently put a thread up on Twitter asking what the least amount of fuel people have purchased at the pumps. I was shocked. I was thinking I was going to spoil the place because I bought fuel worth 30 cedis, one time. Oh, Maza, I was a big fish in the game. The amounts people have bought just to get from point A to B.
15 and 10 cedis and 6
I mean, back
cedis.
when you could even afford to buy it at that price to get something. These days, even 100 cedis worth of fuel takes you really
when you go to the fuel
nowhere.
station and you ask the guy to give you 100 Ghana cedis or 50 Ghana cedis in a V8 or a 4x4, the guy goes like, boss, what's it?
I just look away.
50, mommy, 50. Right, didn't you hear what I said? 50, mommy, 50.
Yeah.
Make top 50 cedis.
The daily guide is here, and the special prosecutor invites Pomboatin. We've clarified Ekufado gold mafia story. That's according to Al Jazeera. A focus accomplice appeals death sentence. Aisha Wan convicted, and Otunfo Lady Julia meet King Charles. Reckless populism on cathedral will fail, according to the daily guide.
Okay. Well, so the National Petroleum Authority has cautioned fuel retail outlets and motorists against using ramps to aid the pumping of fuel into vehicles. It said tilting vehicles on ramps to fill them to the brim could damage the fuel tanks and lead to explosion and destruction of vehicles and lives. The Eastern Regional Manager, Mr. David Owusukina, gave the caution at an NPA media engagement in Kufredia on Wednesday. The media engagement, organized by the Communications Department, says was to highlight the authorities' activities in the petroleum downstream industry and respond to the industry's related questions and from the media as well. That's information you have there, good information.
Yeah.
And you should deal with it. Ellen, you lived in the UK.
Indeed. What is the follow-up, Johnnie?
God save the king.
Oh, of course, the
Send the
coronation is coming up. You know how we're talking about, very interestingly, you talk about the coronation. We're talking about wasting of state funds and so on and so forth. That same conversation actually happening in the United Kingdom, where people are saying now more than ever, people are finding it so difficult to survive, and yet the state finds it useful to spend lots of money on a coronation, millions of pounds on the
How heavy
coronation.
was that stone? 125k?
Million.
They brought the stone.
Million.
Wow.
Million. But I always like to have a balanced view of it. The royal family also brings to the United Kingdom a lot of revenue and prestige, because people go, tourists throng to Buckingham Palace, they buy the memorabilia, people have a lot of euphoria around the royal family, which generates income. So as much as they take from the state, I think they're able to replenish by some of these things. But people are for the abolishment of the monarchy, but that's neither here nor there. Here we have our own problems. National Cathedral. William, that story that you mentioned piqued my interest about this being an issue of populism. And yesterday I was listening back to some of Laratu's submissions when she was here and also on TV. And this idea that Honorable Kujitu Ablakwa is embarking on this, just to be popular, just to be sensational, for me is a bit worrying, because a lot of that took center stage as opposed to the findings and the facts. What is an MP's job? Is to make sure that the executive is accountable. Make sure that you and I's monies are used judiciously. I think that's what Honorable Kuchetua Ablakwa is doing at the moment. So to be met with such resistance, to the detriment of what the facts and figures and issues are, for me, it would appear that government does not want to face the issues head on. This is not an issue of populism. State funds were used. Emergency contingency funds were used for a project that I had no interest or say or support in.
We didn't ask for the cathedral.
We didn't ask for it. To the extent that a private board of trustees was implemented without Parliament's approval. To the extent that you have a single-sourced, very expensive construction work. To the extent that you have 6 million cedis sent to somebody for fundraising. To the extent that 2.6 million cedis was sent to a company that we're told is a crash owned by somebody with 2 different names, still not accountable to the people. It doesn't make sense. Government is playing with this issue. Look, we cannot let this thing die.
Abiam, you have to play Marble for Helen.
They are saying that the secretariat is saying that
you need to speak into the microphone.
They welcome parliamentary oversights, but that shouldn't be done on social media. And what I have to say to them is that when it is done in Parliament, it will still come on social media. The media will be following.
You see,
so they should address their key points. But they also say that they are not wrong. They haven't committed any.
Yes, I also read their report, the response about the reasons for which they've registered the cathedral in the US, being that that purpose is different. Fundraising and all of that. For me, that is just not good enough. And also that they are yet to institute a board in there. Why is it suddenly that this has been unearthed that you are now going to institute a board? Why was that not already instituted? This thing reeks of just I don't buy it.
I honestly think that the cathedral secretariat are playing the ostrich because they are only trying to ask for a parliamentary probe at this time for it to stay quiet in Parliament when the matters have proven to have gotten out of hand, right? When we started the conversation about the National Cathedral and whether or not it was going to be a private something, or whether whoever owns it or how much we're going to spend and all of that, they came out defending it. They were out there on social media defending it. So what are they talking about? I don't like Kokwasa people, though. I don't like Matra and Makwe. Today you are warm, tomorrow you are. I don't like it. The National Cathedral Secretariat must bow down their heads in shame. Because when this matter came, were they not the same people who sat there and saw monies being brought in, monies that had not been approved being brought in, when children couldn't find water to drink and food to eat? So what are they talking about? Now they want everything to be done in camera sort of, so that we put it on a paper and then they give it to the president, and whether he decides to keep it or publish it, that's it. Is that what they want? You want to build a cathedral based on a foundation of what? Deceit and lies. So far, we have gotten to know that the cathedral that we say we are building, or that we are told that is being built on our behalf, that's the right expression, right? Correct. We are being told that it's being built on our behalf. It's not being built the right way. And every 10, one day, one scandal. One day, one scandal. One day, one scandal. And they are saying, they are not addressing the scandals. They say it should be done in Parliament, not on social media.
Now, no explanation as to why this was an emergency, why we have single sourcing, why somebody.
Are you kidding me?
Somebody has to answer for the money being lost to this cathedral.
What I would want to learn from this whole Okujeto expose as per the US visit is to, ascertain the veracity of what the statement is saying, that the National Cathedral of Ghana and Bible Museum, according to the statement, is not the National Cathedral of Ghana's US branch. Sometimes we have to break down these technicalities and understand some of this, so that when we're also making the comments, it doesn't just have. So they are saying that what is done in the US is not an extension of what is here.
Which for me is fine. Well, actually, that point for me was not even in contention.
Because when you read Okujeto's submissions, when I read it without this explanation, the assumption was that why would you have a different name there when we have it registered here and you are going there to register it to raise funds? But the explanation I'm getting here, which I'm learning, is that it is not the same body.
But when they say it is not the same body, and you're raising money for the cause here, because that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to have the same name.
I didn't say it has the same name, but I'm saying that the funds are coming towards a certain purpose. What was the motive indeed? I mean, how can you have 3FM and 3FMA and 3FM Annex?
That's what I'm saying, that I don't have the legal knowledge or information on that matter. So I would want to learn, because at the end of the day, if you find some of these things, it's important that you understand them.
Well, good luck, because so far they've been acting retrospectively. Now going to constitute a board. Why did it take an expose to do that?
Okujeto actually brought out a document indicating that the ownership of the cathedral were in private hands. That matter has not been dealt with. It was that matter, and subsequently the identity of Kusi Boateng Edu Jemfi that went to court, the matter of contempt, whether it was served, all of that. So that the contempt has been dealt with. What was inside that writ that was served on the Kujatua Blakwa, which he kicked on the ground at Metro TV? Have we dealt with the substantive matter in it? Because if the posture of the National Cathedral and its elements, mind you, you have had some clergy, shunning away from the National Cathedral and say, look, this one. And we saw the explosive remarks being made by Archbishop Dag Heward-Mills that, look, this is too expensive, it was too opaque, all of that. The National Cathedral has not had the presence of mind to respond to all of these things. So now they're coming to tell us that this should be done in private, it should be done in parliament and all of that. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
They've been too selective in what they want to respond to.
It's not their pocket money. Look, Duncan Williams has built the Dominion, all that facility there. Archbishop Dag Heward-Mills, he has built something around the Blekusu area. Look at all the churches around the country that he has built. Who else is on? Is it Isuranaba? Look at all of them, what they have done individually on their own in their churches. Then we put all of them together, and then we are not able to even be clean and clear about a single national cathedral.
If the National Secretariat wants Ghanaians to understand properly the processes by which they are using, they must answer all of the questions. I always use the phrase, deny one the perception. The Secretariat cannot deny me the perception that things have been done in a very opaque manner. They choose which elements to respond to. Haven't responded to single sourcing of the contracts, haven't responded to why a private board of trustees was instituted without the Parliament's approval, haven't responded to why contingency funds were used, but they choose the ones that they can respond to. Even that response about the different name being used in the US and about how in the US the things are different. Because of everything that's happened, personally, I take it with a pinch of salt. They cannot deny me
this
that
one is
perception.
An ounce of salt.
An ounce.
It's not a pinch.
Of the points, I am still looking at the points and the responses, just for the purposes of education, because they have some underlying legal. Attorney General's name is even popping up here, and they are saying that, look, the address that they said they did not match what was here and there. It was just a holding address. So in the US, can you have a holding address
for such a serious project that we are doing? You have a holding address that's linked to an address that's not even established. You don't have a board yet. Let's be serious.
We've had in this country where an address led us to
a saloon
when we're looking for a loan.
CNTCI
so having that knowledge, I would rather look at the points raised by Mr. Okujeto and look at the responses, and then try and also do my own learning. So at the end of the day, we can all educate them, because sometimes some of this, when they happen, I mean, we're all not happy. But for me personally, I think that we have to break down the points and the responses so that we can move forward, because I think it can happen again.
True.
I mean, I think honestly, and this will be my final comment on this one. Honestly, I think that the government has not been very, very open with the citizens of Ghana regarding what they have used our monies for in the name of this so-called National Cathedral. I say so-called because my church, the Anglican Church, we have too many cathedrals. We have the Holy Trinity Cathedral. Go to every region in this country. We have cathedrals there. Go to the Methodist Church, same. Go to the Presby Church, same. Go to the Catholic Church, same. AME, Zion, ARS, all those ones, they have cathedrals. In fact, Wesley Cathedral, Holy Trinity Cathedral, they are even better tourist sites. People come and tour those places and pay monies. So if you are giving us the indication that you want to put together a cathedral, which was first of all a personal pledge to God, that God, give me another chance at the presidency and I will build you a cathedral. You got your second chance, and now you say it must be converted into our collective. Did I beg God for power?
Okay. So
has God given me power?
Johnny, let me bring you down some more. Still with the church.
You want me to calm down? Eh?
Yes, still with the church. Pope defrocks Rwandan priest accused of fathering a child.
Hey.
So cool down.
A reverend father.
He's
a real father.
Yes. Wenceslas Ushianka.
A good Wenceslas.
For fathering a child, and this was about 10 years ago. So he was suspended by his diocese in December 2021 after it had merged.
Where did he do it?
From reverend father to real father.
After it had merged that he has legally acknowledged being the father of a 10-year-old boy.
Well, happy Father's Day to him in advance.
The celibacy thing.
William says if you are not too sure, don't. You can't give what you don't have.
Boys who started then and stopped.
Well,
are you talking to 6'2"s?
No names. But guys, quickly before we go, this one.
That's who started and stopped.
This one.
If I wanted to mention names, I would have said I know.
So MP for Otafo Echo Vincent, 6'2"s Don Olu, Kelvin also of our sports department.
Johnnie.
Yeah, they all started.
Johnnie,
they started
Johnnie.
nicely. Like they went to the seminary. And then they saw one or two things. No, this one
is like food and drink.
They said, I am but a civilian.
Drink deep or taste
I
not.
am but a civilian.
The Pope said you can go and father more.
Yeah, Abraham, feel free.
Gentlemen, before we go, I do want to talk about this e-taxi that is coming our way. This one is from the Vice President. Taxi ride-hailing app coming, and that's coming from Vice President Dr. Bawumia. He's announced that commercial taxi drivers are being migrated onto a ride-hailing app as part of efforts to digitalize the operations of commercial drivers. According to him, the initiative arose out of complaints by some taxi drivers that their businesses were on the verge of collapse due to the rise of ride-hailing companies in the country. We sat down with my team and said, okay, how do we help our taxi drivers? And therein lies this idea to put us on a digital platform.
You know one thing I like about Dr. Bawumia? When he makes a promise, like he brings it to the fore, like, oh, my team and I, we sat down and say, oh, no, how do we do this? How do we do that? And maybe I take it with another pinch of salt or an ounce of salt. Because yesterday I was just recounting to somebody how he told us that we'll move away from not taxation to production. That's one is widely circulated. That we'll move away from asphalted roads to concrete roads. Dr. Bawumia, he promised us that. Today, he's the one who goes around and says that we have constructed more roads than the others. And when you check the roads, they are asphalted roads, not concrete roads.
Yeah.
So when he speaks, I don't know. Something says believe in him, but something says doubt him.
I mean, personally, this piqued my interest because it's a good idea.
What's the difference between this? And you see, I'm questioning this because on the front page of the graphic, stolen identity, many at risk from SIM card re-registration.
Right.
We all know how much noise we made about this SIM card re-registration, put people in long queues, put people in very uncomfortable situations. People had to leave their jobs, people had to go and fight for Ghana card, go up and down, we'll deactivate your SIMs. You remember Esla, who would deactivate all of that. That was all part of the digitalization agenda. Today we are reading that people actually have committed fraud after we have finished registering people with people's identities. And that's what is the murky issue in the JB Danko Edu Meda. Sexy Don and all of that. That's is one of the key things that has come up in court regarding identity. Yeah. So if we said that we're going to regularize it and move away from the situation that pertained in the Sexy Don matter, and now we have registered everybody, and people still are able to bypass the system to have. When you tell me about taxi hailing, so Helen owns the taxi. Helen joins the app. Helen has whatever it is. Then I'm able to bypass the system, use Helen's details to run my taxi. What have you done?
For me, I was even thinking about the angle of data. It's becoming even more and more expensive. If you put all of the taxis and trotros on the internet, I think you disadvantage some of us because a certain telco released their new data zone bundles today with the revised fees today, and let me tell you, it's not looking great. But I mean, I'm guessing this is a lot. This is not something that's in tears, weeping. This isn't something that's coming, tomorrow. So I'm sure by then they will, work out any kinks. I like the idea, but also I'm sure, I don't know. Maybe it'll be free online if you go on the government portal.
One of the drivers who we spoke to yesterday said that, look, it was the vice president who said that I've arrested the dollar and given the key to the IGP to keep. Now the dollar has broken jail.
Yeah.
So if you keep all the taxi drivers online, won't they also break jail? One of the drivers asked, and this is a layman's, thinking that, look, this is what you say you can do or